Hi, I'm Charlie, and this is Stereo Hysteria. Our June artists of the month, the Minders, are a pop band that was formed in Colorado in the mid-90s by Martin Leeper, who was born in England but landed in America as a teenager, and whose melodic songwriting and knack for ear-catching arrangements have been a constant throughout the band's career. In the early days of the band, they were affiliated with the Elephant Six Collective, recording their first releases with Robert Schneider of the Apples in Stereo. The band relocated to Portland in the late 90s, and their rotating lineup featured at various points such notable Pacific Northwest musicians as Joanna Bolmy of Stephen Malkmus and the Jicks, Hutch Harris of the Thermals, and Rebecca Cole of Wild Flag, to whom Martin was married. In 2016, they released their first new album in a decade, Into the River, and this year, they launched a Kickstarter campaign to reissue their acclaimed 1998 debut album Hooray for Tuesday on vinyl. Martin spoke with Stereo Hysteria via telephone from his home in Portland, and we'll be hearing that conversation over the next hour. But first, we'll begin with the lead-off track from Into the River, called It's Gonna Break Out.
Time and time again, I go tearing after fading suns. You just came and went, there was nothing left to say from one. Maybe there's a better way for you and me to run. No, I ask you, it's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. I guess you'd count to 10. You're so calculated, never wrong. And if I roll again, I'll be entertaining, singing songs, hanging from the banister. There's just no cloak and dagger here. Oh, 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 sing along. Sing this song. This prairie's ordinary. I race the track. Now I missed you. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. And it's a crime, this waste of time. Hanging on, just hoping I'm getting closer. Silver line, I traced you back, and still I missed you. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out. It's gonna break out.
What was your relationship to music growing up? I understand that you sort of moved around a lot when you were younger.
Yes. Well, I left England when I was 12. My stepdad was an electronic engineer, and so at that time he was fairly young. You know, he was probably in his early 30s, and he was a project engineer for a semiconductor firm. He worked in storage systems. I mean, much of the work he did sort of kind of laid the groundwork for the incredibly fast processors that we have today in computers.
Okay.
And so I kind of grew up with computers around the house at an early age, but it had the adverse effect on me, I guess. I mean, instead of loving computers, I kind of loathed them. But we lived in a very small village called Stone, which was outside of Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, which was just really beautiful. It was kind of an ideal little place, and all of a sudden we moved to a suburb of Munich. and I ended up going to a pretty big school, which was miles away from where we lived. So I had to take a couple of trains in to school there and back every day. And the transition for me was a bit rocky just because I didn't really want to be there, you know.
Did you speak any German?
Oh, well, yeah, I had to, had a crash course in that. And, it was really one of the first things we did was learn the lingo, Deutsch sprechen. And it was cool. I mean, as far as the culture, it was quite different, obviously, from where I was from. So it took a bit of adapting, but not that much. I mean, at 12, you're pretty pliant. You're flexible. You're able to sort of kind of go with everything. But I still really missed home.
Up next, we'll hear a track included on the 1999 collection Cul-de-sacs and Dead Ends that fondly looks back on a town in the south of England called Waterlooville.
She's at the plane, and I'm packing my bags before Waterloo fills. Cul-de-sacs and dead ends. 150 years before the troops came back from Waterloo. Waterloo fell. Now high streets and businesses.
I had been paying a lot of attention as a kid. Like most kids that age, you would talk about your favorite group, right? It was almost like supporting your favorite soccer team or football team.
Sure.
It was kind of like that, Which band do you support? Probably from the get-go, that's what I wanted to do, was be in a band and all that stuff. And I kind of knew at 12 or even earlier, I think I bought my first record when I was 10. It was Discovery by ELO, which is not their best record, but I think it was the first record I was able to buy with my pocket money.
From Bridging the Distance, a 2007 compilation of covers by Portland-based bands, here's a little bit of a Minders cover of a track from ELO's Discovery, Don't Bring Me Down.
You got me running, going out of my mind. You got me thinking that I'm wasting my time. Don't bring me down. No, 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 no. I'll tell you once more before I get off the floor. Don't bring me down.
That was recorded in Germany, wasn't it?
Yes, it was at is it Music Man Studios? Yeah. Which I learned later on, which I was kind of thrilled about. And when Time came out in 1981, I saw them at the Munich Olympia Stadium, the famous Olympic complex that had been built for the 1972 Olympics. And on the sleeve, there was a picture of the members of ELO looking up at this very futuristic building, which was actually in Munich. And I thought, oh, that's cool. There's a connection there. And yeah, I was pretty obsessed with ELO then, but I was also really, really into Madness. So, I mean, in some ways they are related because they're two English pop bands, but they're very different style-wise.
Yeah. When did you start playing music yourself? Like, what was the first instrument that you learned?
it was actually there in Munich that I took guitar lessons at the school, Munich International School, and I was doing pretty well. I was picking it up pretty quickly. And tragically, I took 2 trains to school every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had put my guitar up on the overhead rack on the first train, and then got off the train and left it on the train.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the problem with that was that I couldn't just get any old guitar. I'm left-handed.
Right.
And so I had a left-handed Yamaha nylon string concert guitar. And my parents had bought it, and they were very strict, and they were like, well, that's your last chance. They always like to say that. That's your last chance. It's a very typical British disciplinary approach to law and order, I guess.
Yeah, very austere.
Yeah. So I didn't really pick up guitar again until we moved to the States. We moved here in '84. Colorado Springs was where we settled, and I bought a guitar. It was a Taisco.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Japanese electric guitar. It was right-handed. I played it upside down for a bit. But the biggest problem with that is that it had the cutouts, and so it's really difficult to go, up the fretboard. At some point, your fingers are sort of restricted from moving any further up because you have this sort of cutaway that's obviously designed for someone playing the guitar right-handed.
Right.
And it's no fun being a left-hander in a right-handed person's world. Even though more and more people are left-handed, I've noticed that the guitar industry, they've ignored left-handed players.
Yeah.
Which bothers me. It bothered me then, and it bothers me now. Anyway, I don't want to bitch about that.
We'll continue with a song from the Minders' second LP, 2001's Golden Street, called Treehouse.
Knee deep and it's breezy. My ankles are in jungles. Cross the thicket and clearing the pathways entangled. Peering and ducking, clutching at something. Down a dark defile, a rope and tie through the trapdoor and
So what was your first experience writing your own songs?
Well, the first band that I played in was called The Procession.
Okay.
I was 17, so that would have been 85. We were a weird mashup of gothic, new wave, and standard rock. I wrote songs for this band because no one else in the band wrote songs. And all of the songs were very basic, 3-chord, repetitive. The structures were cyclical. I hadn't learned the tricks of structure, intros and middle eights and codas. I didn't have any of that knowledge. I really just kind of bumbled into it. And that was my first foray, I guess, into learning how to write songs. And I went to school right out of high school, went to art school up in Denver. I think I was done with the band idea for a while. I wanted to learn how to be a painter.
Okay.
So I went to the Institute of Art, and now I wish I'd stuck with it because I could be one of those madmen. Could be the head of accounts or something. I'm not as good looking as Don Draper, but who knows? I mean, maybe I could have had a corner office and drank my cocktails. Didn't really do anything in music for a while. And then it was the early 90s that I started this band called the Henrys. And we were primarily a pop band, very sort of closely tied to sort of XTC.
Okay.
Which had been one of my favorite bands when I was younger, before we left England. At that time, I was no longer sort of listening to ELO. I mean, you can probably see the string. I've always been into sort of that brand of pop. Then I got into this band called Ink, and we were sort of like a dissonancy, sort of grungy. You know, grunge was going full bore. I played with these two guys, Chris Van Huffel and this guy Anthony. I can't remember his last name now. Mine's going. Anyway, he liked Les Claypool. So there was a lot of slapping going on.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes I was like, can you quit slapping so much? But he was a funny guy. He was a really, really funny guy. You know, it's funny, the characters that you get to know in your sort of musical journey, you're never quite in sync. You know, when you're starting bands, you have to kind of search for a while to find people who all want to do the same thing. And that's really hard. And I finally got that when I started the Minders. But the Minders didn't start as a band. They started as a recording project. And ultimately, that's remained pretty much a studio project. Robert and I started the project, Robert Schneider from the Apples. Well, he had seen my band, the Henrys. I'd met him early on when the Apples were playing shows on the Capitol Hill in Denver. And we got to know each other, and I played him some demos that I'd recorded at a small studio in Denver. And he had started the Elephant Six Collective with his buddies, of course, and they were peddling tapes and had just pressed their first 7-inch, and Olivia Tremor Control was in Denver. And so things were starting to happen, and I was absolutely blown away that there were bands in Denver, because Denver was kind of a wasteland in terms of there were no pop bands. My love for pop music, I just thought no one's ever going to play music like that ever again. You know, it's over.
Right.
Of course, the beginnings of the independent music movement were sort of really ratcheting up, and new aesthetics, which were actually old aesthetics, were coming back, and I wasn't aware of that. I kind of got a hint of it. I went back to England in 91, and Blur had their first hit, There's No Other Way.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that's a really catchy song. And it's got its roots in all of the things that I love. It's a little psychedelic, and, you know, it's very poppy, kind of jangly. Anyway, all of that was really gathering momentum there in the early to mid-90s. When Robert suggested that I start a new project, I just started writing some songs, and then he recorded them in his house on his 8-track.
Here's a song from the very first Minders release, the 1995 7-inch Build, featuring Robert Schneider on bass, called Almost Arms.
If my foot took the wrong shoe, my soul would wear the wrong way. Not sure I'd be better off trying, since better is easy to say. And I'm back to the almost arms again.
for a few months, I didn't have a name for the project. Robert came up with the name. He was on tour, and he came back. He was like, what do you think of the wee people? And I don't know. I was like, you mean like the wee people, like a wee laddie, a small person? And he was like, no, like the Who, like the wee people. And I was like, I don't know, I don't know what made me think of it, but there'd been a TV show on British television before I had left England called The Minder. I liked it because it was a very flexible name, has many different meanings. I mean, it could be a bit tough, like the Minders. Oi, we're the Minders. We're going to bounce you around. Because the Minder was this guy, Dennis Waterman, who was I think he was a boxer, and he minded this local crook, a bit of a tea leaf. Tea leaf means thief, it's a Cockney rhyming slang.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, that's cool because it's a bit tough. So it's a bit like the Who or something like that. But then it can be psychedelic. So the Minders, hey, it's all about the mind, man. So I really liked that. And I thought, that's a perfect name. Oh, my God. I mean, I didn't mean to be self-congratulating. It's just I was excited about it. And I thought, that is a really great way to start a pop project. We had the songs. I knew that the lo-fi aesthetic, drawing the covers and all of that stuff, the fact that I had dropped out of commercial art school, well, a lot of those things had stayed with me. I was like, well, I may have dropped out of that school, but I'm actually using some of those skills now, and I'm actually publishing stuff that I would never have done probably if I'd stuck with that. So, that kind of puts an X mark through the Don Draper corner office thing because... I actually did do something with my training a bit, even though they're pretty loose, but you kind of get the idea. I mean, the first cover, if you're familiar with it, the Build 7-inch, it looks like a thumbnail that we would draw out in classes.
Okay. Wasn't Build the one that credits Jeff Mangum with inspiration for the cover?
Yes. Jeff was looking for a cover for On Avery Island, and he lived like a few blocks up from me on Capitol Hill. I think one day he came over. I can't remember if we met, and he gave me the criteria, and I drew some thumbnails. And the thumbnails for Build, if you noticed, there's this weird crooked guitar cubist man, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, on the cover for Hooray for Tuesday, it's the same way. Jeff had told me what he wanted. He saw the drawings I made, and he was like, well, now I've had another idea. Mm. And I was like, cool, do you mind if I still use them for covers? He was sure. Mm-hmm. So I used the thumbnails and stuff for Build and drew some cartoons on the back. And then for the sake of continuity, I used the painting that I had done for Jeff as the cover art for Hooray for Tuesday. Okay. And when I say continuity, those 4 7-inches that led up to Hooray for Tuesday, they were all related because I was learning how to write in a style. To me, they were very much kind of a part of the project. And so after Hooray for Tuesday was released, we went ahead and released Cul-de-sacs and Dead Ends, which is a compilation of all those 7-inches, those 4 7-inches. Yeah. And I'd gotten the idea from, how Belle and Sebastian had released a series of EPs.
Yeah.
I thought that's pretty cool. And it just seemed like a good way to sort of build our catalog.
From the second Minders 7-inch, 1997's Paper Plane, here's a song called Big Machine.
Maybe something that happened here before. Now I've got ears, I'm listening, I'm just here, that's all. I'm just here, that's all. And everything moves and murmurs. Could be the sound of engines turning freight.
Did you have a different process or frame to making the first full-length album?
Yes and no, because half the record, the basic tracks were recorded the same way I'd recorded the 7-inches. I did them in my living room. And then we bounced those tracks to Robert's 8-track and then embellished, added more studio tricks or just making it to the bigger sounding. You got to imagine that we were going from a 1/4-inch format to 1/2-inch.
Okay.
You just have greater highs in terms of frequency. And then, of course, you have more channels,
right.
More tracks to play with. So the 4-track, I used and still use the same machine now, a TAC A3440 as my demo machine. And I have an MX5050 Otari, which we used on Hooray for Tuesday, the same model of machine that was used on Airplane Over the Sea.
Okay.
And that Robert used, I think, partially for Fun Trick Noisemaker, or maybe all of it. And the MX5050 is a great machine, very, very robust. But to answer your question, the process wasn't necessarily that different because I was recording basic tracks that would be used for the album. And then the bigger tracks like Hooray for Tuesday, those were entirely constructed at Pet Sounds from bottom up.
Up next, we'll hear the title track from the Minders' first full-length album, 1998's Hooray for Tuesday.
I had one microphone, a mono Bellari tube preamp, and I bought a compressor to go with it, and I had one SM57. And I would record everything. I'd start with acoustic, a rhythm track, then place the drums on top of that, and then place the bass on top of that. I had a 2-track, and I would submix that stuff. And then some of the tracks were straight 4 tracks, and then would be bounced to the 8-track. But I think actually some of that stuff I either internally bounced or I think I borrowed a 2-track from someone, and then we ended up with sort of a fuller basic track. There were some very deliberate things done, and I feel like it was built well. Robert spent a lot of time working on that record.
Wasn't that the only album that you did as a Denver-based band?
Well, we left right after that. Yeah, we moved to Portland.
How did the move to Portland sort of affect the sound or the...
Well, the writing,
Yeah.
definitely. I wanted us to be able to kind of experience other things. I was worried about getting pigeonholed, and in many ways we kind of have, because most people don't really listen to anything else that we've put out. It's just Hooray for Tuesday, that's it. They don't realize that there's 10 other records up on Spotify that they could check out that are
Right.
I feel equally as interesting, if not more interesting. We tried different stuff, that's what you do. But when we moved to Portland, yeah, I mean, it's a different place. The sun doesn't shine all the time, which has an effect on, I don't know, where do you live?
I'm in Chicago.
In Chicago. So you have all 4 seasons. Well, there's 4 seasons in Colorado, but to me, as an Englishman, Colorado couldn't have been more different from where I was from, because most of the time the skies are clear and it just seemed sort of bizarre. It just didn't fit. So when I came out to Portland, out to here, I think it was on our first tour, I was like, wow, this is, of course it reminded me of Europe. I mean, it doesn't look like England really it looks more like northern France. And I was like, I want to move here.
Right.
And Rebecca was into the idea, but the other 2 weren't. And so they stayed behind in Denver. And I'm glad I did move here, because Denver was a bit limited then. I don't know what the music scene's like now. I know that there's been quite a few bigger bands that have come out of Denver since. But then, the scene, and I don't like scenes.
Right.
But what I mean to say is that it was hard to find pockets of people that you could go out and have fun and talk about the craft with, right?
Right.
Moving here, though, you threw a rock and you'd hit like 10 different people that were involved in music. I mean, out here, it was like the first job I got here, there were 3 or 4 people that were playing in 3 different bands,
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, it was just really been thrown into the deep end, and we got to meet some cool people, and it was just broader. It seemed like a good move, and hey, I'm still here. It's 20 years later, and I still live here.
Here's a track from 2006's It's a Bright Guilty World, called Crest of the Hill.
Oh, tell me what's it like? I've never been, but I heard it's fine. Faster, faster, we'll arrive. I can see the crest of the hill. Something about that tall hillside, always gazed in its shadow, never seen the side, but the sun sets down to realize a golden age of promise never still. And clouds bathed in ancient light, what love only knows. And here come again the tales of thoughts so cold. No, no, no.
Elliott Smith was one of the people that you met in Portland. He famously later covered some of your songs and toured with you a bit.
Well, we toured with him. He didn't tour with us. And he was a fantastic guy. I met him through Joanna Balmy. It's funny, when we moved to Portland, there was a group of people that just kind of welcomed us into sort of the community, which was really cool. And there was quite a bit of a community at that time. And I'm sure there is today. I'm not, it's scattered now. It's a different place.
Right.
But back then, yeah. So I met him, and he was a very, very cool guy, a very, very talented writer and musician, extremely good musician, great guitar player, great piano player, great drummer. He was an all-rounder,
Yeah.
He had sort of done his homework and wasn't just doing homework. He loved the music. So it showed, just in his compositions. And there's a reason why people become big. And that reason is that they're good.
Right.
And he was very good at what he did. And I was absolutely blown away by the guy and really loved Either Or. It's still my favorite record. It's so mysterious. It's so Portland then. That thing smells like Portland smelled to me when I moved here. That kind of moldy, rainy, pissy, just murky.
Right.
And you've got this mystery, Speed Trials, Alameda. I mean, these songs just creep in and they get you.
Yeah.
And I just like, oh, that's so good. When I first heard that record, I was like, wow, that's something else. And that was one of the greatest thrills of my life, certainly touring with him, being on the road, which, the whole time it was going on, I pinched myself pretty much the whole time going, what the fuck are we doing here? This is a level that we will never see again. And no, it's pretty much right. I've gotten to do some tours, but nothing like that. It was a real treat. If anything, it was a beautiful treat.
From the 2000 EP Down in Fall, here's a country waltz featuring Elliott Smith on acoustic guitar under the pseudonym Lester Myth, called The Loneliest of Faces.
It's your face that makes me lonely, leaves me down without a home. I'll be laying in your gutter all the whiles, and I could be the one that died, but my name you'll never heard, and I'll end up only wasting time. Oh, the cold wind through my tin roof just howled about. It's the same and always been when you're around. I know your heartache's all for show. You've been winning, but you won't, and your graciousness is taking a dive. You'll be singing to your new friends all about it, saying it's a secret and not to tell it, not to no one, even that one. Heavens above, I've had enough. 'Cause it's your face that makes me lonely, leaves me down without a home. I'll be laying in your gutter all the whiles, and I could be the one that died, but my name you'll never heard, and I'm only wasting time.
The band sort of went on hiatus. There was some personal upheavals.
Yeah.
Were there any doubts about whether you would pick up the Minders mantle again? Like, when did the work on Into the River begin in earnest?
Well, in the middle of, I went through a divorce. Rebecca and I divorced, and I was pretty sad about all that, and I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't listen to anything. I didn't listen to anything for a while, just because every time I did, it made me think of all that. So
Right.
it was very painful. So I put it away for a bit, and then I don't know. I had a roommate, so I stayed on in my house and lived in the house I was living in during that time. And my roommate, who played drums in a band, he made me go out to a show or something like that, and I can't remember what it was, but I just started writing again. I mean, once you do this stuff, you're kind of wrecked forever. You can't put it down. It's hard to put it down.
Sure.
It's hard to switch it off. So I started writing some songs, And what came out of that was the stuff that's on Cul-de-sacs and Dead Ends, Volume 2, like Do You Know Who You Are was the first song I wrote. And I just went back in I have a studio that I built on my property. It's like a little 200 square foot building crammed full of shit, gear, and some of it's probably moldering and falling apart and gathering dust. It's a crazy room. It's a little nuts. You move something and about 10 other things come crashing down onto you. So it's kind of a hazardous place. It is a hazard.
From the second volume of Cul-de-sacs and Dead Ends, released in 2012, here's the first post-hiatus Minders song, Do You Know?
I never stayed on what I had to state. Across the fields in case I'm far away. I've always felt a sense of right and wrong. But in this place am I gonna rhyme alone and do you know what you are? It's true, I've seen my heart. Oh, there's no better cure. I read your letter Saturday. The lines were waves. It felt colder somehow, brave in the tide. Still I'm bolder and I'm brave. The sounds we make, the time it takes, has me going over songs in my mind. Do you know what you are? It's true, I've seen in my heart. And you have a say in the part. Do you know what you
But anyway, I got to working again, got to writing. Then I decided to scrap Minders altogether, and I started this project called The Electric Castle,
Okay.
which there's a arcade on Belmont, a few blocks over from where I live. And it's a super old-fashioned arcade from the 50s or the 60s, and it's still very popular here. We kind of, luckily, some of those things, I mean, I'm sure that they'll decide to rip that out soon and build a condo on that too. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's Condo City, yeah. For now, it's still there. But Electric Castle, I gave it a whack at trying to start a new band. And when you're older, I'm looking at 50 now, and this would have been, I was in my 40s or my late 30s. Yeah, people just don't give a shit. They just see some old dude trying to play music, and they're like, he's got nothing to offer us. So I decided, well, it's easier to pick up from where I left off, and worked on the songs for the last album for the next few years. It took me a while, and I wrote a bunch of stuff and threw out a bunch of stuff, and that brings us up to 2016 when we released that record, Into the River. And I'm currently working on new songs for a new record, which I have no idea what it will be titled. I don't even know if the songs I'm working on right now will end up being part of the record or not. I don't know. It takes me a long time to write stuff, and that's just because it does. And
Yeah, it's all part of the process.
yeah, I mean, well, things have to be inspired, you know, or they just don't shine. So, you know, there's no point trying to force stuff. And once in a while I've done that, and you're like, yep, that's pretty much what I thought it would be. Just sort of kind of flat or one-dimensional or whatever. So I try to make songs at least about something in my life. Although, the maxim, write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that, but you don't have to do that. There are no rules. I mean, there are times when I try to break out of that mold.
Here's the second of 2 arrangements of the title track from 2016's Into the River.
River, take me down, far away from the madding crowd. I'm now ready to be far from here. Drift me westward now, over waves that curl and plow, out past the river mouth, over whitewashed piers. Am I free to doubt? Never felt I could let it out. On the roundabout, it pulls me in when I'm getting And here we go, I see the way we came. And even though, oh, the light is wane, radio, make that sound, play it loud and proud, push through the sunlit clouds, crystal clear. I will never doubt you, I can't live without you. I am here beside you, free and clear. All this time of doubt, breathe it in and let it out. On the roundabout, it pulls me in when I'm getting out.
Can I ask about working with Larry Crane for the Into the River record?
Yeah.
I'm a longtime Tape-Op subscriber, and I've gotten a lot of invaluable tips off of him, so I can tell there's a lot of production elements to that record that aren't on previous albums. Like, there's a kind of fuller bottom end, and, there's obviously strings and all that. Like, how much was that what he brought to the table?
I first met Larry when we moved to Portland in '98, and a friend of mine, Andrew Caffer, I had recorded his first album. I don't know if you're familiar with The Kissing Book. If you don't know it, check it out. The Kissing Book, it's called Lines and Color, and it came out in 1999 on the Magic Marker label.
Okay.
And I recorded that in my basement on my 8-track. But anyway, I first met him through Andrew. Andrew took me over to Jackpot, and I think he interrupted a session or something like that. He didn't seem too thrilled. But I met him at a party and got to know him, and I've recorded several projects with him. What I used to do, just to save money and to continue to sort of have more of a hand on my work, I would do basic tracks at Jackpot, take the 2-inch masters or the basic track masters to my 2-inch machine, and then continue on from there, because the sessions were sort of more structured, whereas doing sessions at my house were a lot of the time, we'd have a few beers, smoke a few bowls, and the fucking thing would just fly off into the ether. Right. And so going to a studio and having structure, we would knock out stuff faster. So I had that experience a few times going to Jackpot. And then a friend of mine suggested that we should just do a studio record, as opposed to doing what we had been doing, which was recording in the 200 square foot crammed crazy room in my house. So, approached Larry about that. He was very enthusiastic, and the sessions were very professional. He is a professional. His technical knowledge, because he's been doing it for so long, and obviously he's really passionate about sound engineering and has an encyclopedic knowledge. So you can talk about something and Larry will say, well, these guys were responsible, because he's interviewed a lot of folks along the way with tape op. And so it's a real treat. He is an engineer's engineer. People who really love music could spend hours talking to Larry, because Larry is a music lover, and especially a pop music lover. He's a punk rocker, you name it. Really, it was a real pleasure. And I would do it again. I don't have any money right now. So the last time I hung out with him, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and we mixed a track that we did live at Jackpot recently, when we played with Robert when he came into town. He joked, maybe my rates are too expensive for you. I was like, oh, no, your rates are fine. It's just I'm fucking broke, which is true, because I lost my job 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I would have been a little more sort of like, well, I can probably afford this and that. But yeah, I'm experiencing what most people experience, crazy fuckers that decide to do this for their life. You know?
Lifers. And obviously I don't do it for the money, because I would have given up 20 years ago. So call me crazy. Well, I'm glad that you didn't.
Well, thank you. And I'm not trying to give you some sob story, because I'm not. I decided to continue to do this because obviously what else is there to do? I guess I could switch off or just watch CNN all the time and get pissed off about Trump. I don't know. I guess I could do a lot of things, but yeah, it's what I do. It's what I get excited about still. I've been writing stories. So actually, if there was a transition from music, it would be that.
Okay.
And painting. And I want to paint again. So at some point, I probably will put it down or do less. I will say that our entire cohort, musical cohort, has more or less sort of kind of retired. The bands that were around in Portland when we moved here are almost all gone. I would say that the only two bands I can think of that were there then and are still here today are Quasi and Sleater Kinney.
But of course, Sleater Kinney took a big break in the middle.
They took a big break, yeah. And they're very big.
Yeah.
Well, not very big, but they're big compared to where we are. We're like a little pebble to their Gibraltar. It does get hard. I got a little bit of an uplift recently because at the beginning of the year we put out our cassette on Spotify. We released this cassette a couple of years ago.
Is that Boiling the Ocean?
Yeah. And then we digitally uploaded it to Spotify, and people seem to like that. It was good to see that people responded to that, because mostly when you look at what people are listening to, it's usually Hooray for Tuesday. That's it. And it's like, wow, there's so much more shit out there. But then again, I think that's normal. We're all guilty of going for the more visible stuff sometimes.
And here's the title track from that cassette collection, which collects recordings made between 2011 and 2016, called Boiling the Ocean.
I can see it, I can't deny it. Every point I've chased it, I've come and shine. You have been beautiful. You stand so tall. And me, I'm going far. I make it easy. Down on the street, I step into the shattered notes are shafts of light. Anyone could put the hurt on me. I can't the beautiful, you stand so tall, and me, I'm gonna fall. I make it easy. When you shoot, it's that man just wrong. When you shoot, around and on. When you shout, can't take it anymore. I walk the floor and wait till that all of us to me. When you shout.
Well, I'm very happy that that's out and easy to listen to. I was also really happy to see that the tour CD, The Stolen Boy,
Yeah.
I saw that was on Spotify, and I hadn't heard that before, so I was listening to that earlier.
The next record will be more related to both those records you just kind of mentioned, because it'll be recorded on my 8-track.
Okay.
One, we don't have any money for a budget. We can barely afford tape at this point. So all of us are broke. And we're sort of typical of kind of the state of most, I don't think of myself as an artist or anything like that, but, you know, people trying to make their way in the arts, or whatever you want to call it, pop art, or, you know, it's very challenging, especially living in a place like Portland today, which has become 5 times more expensive than it was 20 years ago.
Right.
I don't know how people do it. I mean, if you haven't gotten a foothold in a place like this, you're fucked. I mean, there are so many homeless people here, and it's just crazy. I think about it a lot, and that there will be some sort of more themed, there's more stuff about that. Just kind of the general mood of things, too.
Right.
You can't just lock yourself up in a bubble. You know, when you're writing, you have to sort of write about what's going on in your world.
Mm-hmm.
That is affecting my writing right now, yeah.
Yeah.
But it won't be a gloomy record.
Okay. I mean, because I could say as dark as it gets, I have always enjoyed that there's a lot of optimism in Minders records.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm an optimist. I was born a pessimist because we all are a bit gloomy over there in England. But what we like is to expect the worst, and when good stuff happens, we're overjoyed. And I kind of prefer to hear the bad news first and work from there and get to the good stuff later.
And that's all the time we have for this week's episode. I'd like to thank Martin Leeper for taking the time to talk with Stereo Hysteria. And if you liked what you heard over the last hour, I wholeheartedly encourage you to go to Kickstarter.com and search for the Minders Hooray for Tuesday to make a pre-order of the 20th anniversary vinyl reissue. As of the recording of this podcast, they're nearly at their goal, with a week left of the campaign. Be sure to tune in again next week, when our topic will be songs about stopping. This is Charlie, signing off.